What is up, Squared Nation? Welcome back to No Counters, No Combos. And today, I want to talk about the big boy coming out of the Zenkai series. SS4 Vegito, A Light in the Dark. Now, this card is insane, okay? Let's just look at it, and let's just relish in all the glory. It's a 40k attacker. It's an 8k, it's an 8 drop, I should say. It's 2 required red to play it. It's a 1 cost 10k combo, but you're never going to use it as a combo, really, right? So let's look at the meat and the potatoes of this card, right? It's ultimate. You can only include 1 in your deck. It's deflect, so it's not going to be hit by any counterplays. Does not have barrier, so that's something to look at, but I really don't know if there's a lot that can hit this card. I know if Charismatic can't because he's an 8 drop. And then Overwhelm 6, which I'll get a little bit more into this later on, but to me this is the most interesting aspect of this card. Overwhelm 6, your leader is a mono red Saiyan card. So that's literally the only play cost restriction for Overwhelm. You have to have 6 and drop. It's a free Overwhelm. You just have to be playing a mono red Saiyan leader. Auto, if you have 4 or more mono red energy. When this card is played, your opponent reveals their hand. You choose up to 1 battle card with 35,000 power or less from it, and your opponent discards it. Then choose up to 1 of your mono red leaders, and until the start of your next turn, it gets plus 10,000 power, and this card gains quadruple strike. So there's a lot to unpack here, okay? Overwhelm for free with 6 and drop on a mono red leader. If you have 4 or more mono red energy. So again, I just wanna separate each effect piece by piece. Okay? The Overwhelm 6, the only requirement that you need is a mono red Saiyan leader. So the Overwhelm effect, that's it. That's the only restriction. Overwhelm 6, mono red Saiyan. The auto is if you have 4 or more mono red energy. So you can play this guy as a 40k beat stick as long as you have a mono red Saiyan leader and an Overwhelm, 6 and drop for Overwhelm. That's it. You don't have to worry about having the 4 mono red energy if you just want to play it as a 40k beat stick. All right, so just keep that just take that into consideration. Keep that in mind, right? If you have 4 or more mono red energy when this card is played, you look at your opponent's hand, you rip a battle card 35k or less, and then your leader gets plus 10k until the end of your opponent's turn or the start of your next turn, really. And then this card gains quadruple strike. So if you have 4 red energy, your leader becomes a 25k until the start of your next turn, and this card becomes a 40k quad strike attacker. So obviously this is a win button, right? If you can successfully play this to the board, you're going to rip out a battle card from your opponent's hand, and 35k or less is a lot. The only thing you're not going to be able to hit really is secret rares. So you'll be able to hit super combos, you'll be able to hit any type of piece that they might need. You're ripping a card out of their hand. But the more important thing is that you're looking at their hand. So you're getting that knowledge. Knowledge is key, right? Back in the day when foreseeing hit was a meta staple, during the Tournament of Power days, the power of that card was not so much the card that you had your opponent discard. It was the knowledge that you got by looking at their hand. Obviously, this card is a much more power-crept version of foreseeing hit because you had to pay 4 to play hit. This is just have 4 energy and overwhelm for free, which is kind of disgusting. But that knowledge, that power of just knowing what's in your opponent's hand and trying to read into their next play, if for some reason you don't win the game right then and there, like if they have a negate or whatever, at least you know what's going to come down to stop you from ensuring the victory, and then you could get them on the clapback next turn. So obviously this is a win button. You're going to play this when your opponent's at 4, and you're going to try to win the game with this guy. But for some reason, your failsafe is, oh yeah, my leader's just going to be 25k on your turn. So you're going to have to deal with that with 1 less card in your hand. And then the quad strike obviously is going to have a lot of play here. So face value, this card is disgusting. It's cracked. There's a lot of argument that this secret rare is going to get the God rare out of Zenkai series. I think that's a fair argument. I definitely don't think Bardock's going to get it, but I think it's going to be between this and the SS Blue Goku secret rare that we had spoiled a couple days back. I feel like this card is much more worthy of a God rare because it's the debut of SS4 Vegito from the Xeno or the Dragon Ball Heroes saga. So I could definitely see this getting that God rare treatment. I wouldn't put it past Bandai, but this card is just insane. I mean, it's a free Overrealm. Like, who's not going to have 6 cards in their drop area? If you're playing red. If you're playing decks nowadays, they're usually monocolored anyway, unless you're trying to do some blue-red mill or some blue-yellow, like, shenanigans. But for the most part, you're going to be monocolored. We're getting a new Pan reboot leader, which is going to be played. We're getting that new SS4 leader, Goku and Vegeta, which is going to see a lot of play. So red is just in a really good spot right now. You can't play this with U7 because you can't Overwhelm in that deck, but that's neither here nor there. This card is just really, really strong. And the most interesting thing, which I'm going to get into now, we talked about a little earlier in the video, the most interesting thing to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen anybody talk about this, is seeing Overwhelm printed as a keyword skill on a non-black battle card. So why is this interesting to me? Well, if you look back into the history of the Dragon Ball Super card game, Overwhelm as a keyword was introduced in between sets 2 and 3, really more towards the end of set 2. We had a Heroes and Villains kind of expansion set where we were introduced to the Overwhelm mechanic. We got some Gotenks fusion cards in there as well, but really the meat and potatoes of that set was Time Patrol Trunks. There was a Mass Saiyan that was it was power crept by Secret ID essentially, but it was a Overwhelm for 1 20k double striker that essentially KO'd battle cards up to a cost of 5 without blocker. So like I said, Secret ID was a power crept version of that original Mass Saiyan, but that's where we got our first glimpse into Overwhelm. And I've had discussions with Matt, shout out to him, and a lot of other people. Overwhelm has always been a complement to an already existing strategy. Black never had enough legs to stand alone and be its own color, be its own archetype, have its own archetype, have its own identity. Really, it was an auxiliary color that was created for support. Fast forward to Rise of the Unison Warrior, where we got our Vegex starter deck. Black is now a lot more fleshed out. I think the first time I saw an all-black deck, I mean, you can make the argument for Shenron Wish, but that was really just, it was black. Probably, Kidku was probably like the first real like all-black deck that didn't really rely too much on Overwhelm strategies. I could be wrong. I know there was a Vegeta Mass Saiyan in there. I know that there was obviously the original Mass Saiyan, the SS3 Bardock, but those were like more Overwhelm strategies. Even Vegex to a certain extent had some Overwhelm in there as well. Black Boo was another really good black deck that didn't really rely on Overwhelm. So you're starting to see now the transition from set 2 and set 3 to set 10, where black is getting more fleshed out and getting legs. And then now fast forward to today's game, you have SS God Trunks, you have Xeno Gogeta, you have all of these black decks and their own archetypes and stuff like that. So what I find interesting, just to get a little back on track here, is seeing the Overwhelm skill as a keyword on a non-black battle card. So I'm wondering if Bandai decided to do this as just like a flavor thing, or if they really want to move forward and start printing Overwhelm on other colored cards. Now, I think that would be interesting because essentially what Overwhelm does is it just gives you an extension to your already existing strategy. So if you're in like a monocolored deck, right, you're going to play your whatever your archetype is. Let's say you're playing Trunks, so you're playing yellow Trunks. So you're going to play your 40 to 45 cards, sometimes even 50 cards, really, of just mono yellow. And then you might tech in a couple of, overwhelm options to use as finishers. That's kind of been like the deck construction philosophy for as long as I can remember. You're having some small overwhelm package in your deck as like an extension to further your strategy, or just have it as a finisher. You know, Mirror Creator, Absorbed, Bardock Fighting Against Fates. Cards like that have always been used as kind of like that late game finisher, low investment, doesn't require energy. You could be tapped out, you know, after your opponent thinks that they've defended against all your swings, you just follow up with an overwhelm for free and just go ham. That's kind of always been like the structure as far as deck composition has been concerned for a very, very long time. So you always had to offset your monocolored strategy and have a splash of a black overwhelm card. So what I find interesting is if they start including overwhelm as a keyword on other colored cards, they're already doing it on red. If they do like yellow overwhelm or blue overwhelm or green overwhelm, you're going to start seeing monocolored strategies really take off. And I'll use this as a perfect example. SS4 Vegeta. If you're playing SS4 Vegeta ramp, right, you're kind of forced to play that deck mono blue, okay? Because if you hit a non-mono blue color off of your ramp, you don't get to charge it, right? So that's kind of always been like the crux of SS4 Vegeta. Even though SS4 Vegeta right now is in a really good spot in the meta, that's kind of always been its kind of, you know, setback. A better example is the Super Saiyan 2 Gohan leader that we got a couple sets back that was part of the Bojack era, the skillless Gohan leader. That's another deck that needs to charge only mono blue energy. So it's kind of forcing you to play mono blue. So it was very difficult to include an overwhelm package in that deck, because if you were flipping cards off the top of your deck to put in your energy, you had no control over what color those cards were. Okay, so if they start making, you know, blue overwhelm cards, these decks or these strategies that require specific colored energy are gonna just get more support on the back end there. So I just wanted to make this video today to highlight that aspect. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, this secret rare is disgusting, it's cracked, it's a 40k quad strike, you're going to use it as a win button, totally fine. But the intricacies of the card that I find more interesting are like those little subtleties. Like, it's a free battle card that you can use for overwhelm as long as you're playing a mono red Saiyan, and you don't have to worry about having the 4 energy. You can play it whenever you want because that's part of its on-play requirement, right? The overwhelm 6 and the mono red Saiyan leader. You get the benefits of using the auto if you have 4 mono red energy, but if you're just trying to use it for that last damage and you don't have 4 energy, you could still overwhelm it for 6 and kind of win the game. So let me know what you guys think about, you know, seeing overwhelm as a keyword skills on different color cards. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and please hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything No Counters, No Combos. We really do appreciate the support, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Be there or be squared.